Before I speak of this tale, I must warn thee of the tears which hath been writ of. Horrors of the flesh, be it mutation or gore, and soul or follow, as does the depravity of apathy and the deprivations of the wilds on the human body. Hail and well met to the reader of this tale. This venture is titled The Beast of Hathor's Creek, and was transcribed by Ventures League scribe Arnold Hellsmut. This transcript is written to the best memory and ability of the scribe. To all who read this record, be mindful of the horrors of the flesh and mutagenic, visceral, and soul forms, as well as the depravity of apathy and the deprivations of the wilds upon the human body. Hearken these words and remember them for all those that were, are, and shall be. The winter of 4900 AR was a hard and bitter chill for Skanderheim. In the farthest north, titans of frost descended in numbers not seen since the days of the Black Goat's reign. Their arrival was heralded by a cold wind that so chilled any in its path, their flesh turned black and broke off. Blood froze in the veins and bones turned to iron. The gloss of the eyes and mouth prickled and dulled in an instant. Metal snapped into tiny fragments and fires died silently. Great mountains of snow and frost rose from the ground, and the earth trembled and split open. The seas rose their chilly daggers and turned white. Drakholm could be walked to from the mainland, it is said. And the darkness of snowstorms blurred the hour. Time itself seemed to freeze. Many went mad within their homes and preferred to kill themselves rather than let the bitter chill take its toll. Some feasted on the flesh of their kindred and turned into slavering mutants begotten with guilt and rage. In those horrid days, many prayers were given to the Vanir for the reprieve from the death outside. Many villages were snowed over or crushed by creeping glaciers. So heavy and deep was the winter, it did not clear for a year. By then, many had starved to death, leaving many dozens of miles of claimed land to be taken by nature. When the Deicrean sun did return, and the immortals clashed with the ancient elders, driving them back, years of sacrificial thanks would follow, and many raids into foreign lands for better ground were done. Green returned to northern Deicrea, and with it the season of bounty. In the town of Geldinglass near Hathor's Creek, a young girl had found the corpses of trolls dismembered along the creek bed. Townsfolk counted 4 bodies in a horrible state. These trolls were known to have dwelled in the deep forest, and came to an understanding that travels westward would result in them encountering mortals. Tracks led from their den eastward. The large human-like tracks were hurried. In an effort to escape their pursuer, the beasts ran wildly before each was butchered all at once. No other tracks were found. Days later, guards upon the wall saw a shapeless thing moving through the greenery, big and brown like a hairy beast, but as silent as a cat's step. Cattle were found dead at first on the periphery of the town, where the beasts wanted to roam at night. Each corpse found was cut apart wholesale and tossed about in every direction. Guards and watchdogs were set up at all hours of the day, and livestock were brought closer to the town. After a lull, it did not seem that there was any concern, for the killing had stopped. Mortal victims began turning up days later by Hathor's Creek in a similar state of ruin. Only the faintest hints of clothing or features were enough to tell who was slaughtered. Dogs could not find any scent, nor were there any tracks found. Bodies piled up, and until none were to go near the creek. Geldinglass's population had been hurt by the winter. Debate was fierce about what to do. Without any sign or knowledge, the townsfolk could not hunt it. Omens of ill doom clattered on the runestones. Augurs beheld a great blustering form in their dreams, like a cloud of smoke hacking apart things around it. The gods of prophecy told how in time the terror would abate, but not without great death. So it was that Geldinglass took its sorrow wealth, and hired the Olaf's Wayward sons venturing party. The Olaf's Wayward sons venturing party consisted of the stunted human Leif the Undertaker, he, him, the brute human Erica the Forsaken of Lopt, she, her, the halfling human Geisric the Slayer of Romei, he, him, the thick human Reichel of Ollunda, she, her, and the primogenitus human Eric Laugersson, he, him. Alongside their followers of note was the primogenitus human from the Hinter, Fane the Brusque, he, him. For 46 silver and 5 head of cattle, along with 2 golden helms, the party made their way from Dromside to Geldinglass. Along their journey, they slew beasts like us, brazened by spring's warm vigor. Their trophies deterred all other ill wishes from them, until the arrival at Geldinglass. Hail och skale! Good health and joy was said. Geldinglass was full of sorrow and rage, as all settlements that lost loved ones were. Before all the villagers they swore full glad a blood oath to slay whatever brought death. Cheers roared from the villagers, and the mournful bent their knees and pleaded for debts paid in blood. In the great hall, the venturers heard the accounts of the villagers who had beheld the slaughter and listened to no other. Once the words were said, then came forth Geldinglass's poet, who spoke of ancient heroes and venturers of the olden days, and lo, of mighty Baal the wolf of the Geats, who slew the marsh fiend Grendel and his hag mother in the days before the rifting, when terrors of the night skulked as rarely as the sun in winter did. That night the Olaf's Wayward sons venturing party debated what the beast could be. No natural beast was it, for the cold was bitter, and an animal of fang and claw would have feasted upon the corpses instead of leaving gore. An immortal, perhaps, but no spirit would be so subtle and so reckless. No words were spoken, that nature itself attacked, and so the chance it was a risen root was cast aside. Only the undead was left as a culprit. In the morning, the venturers began inspecting Hathor's Creek with their hounds. Hathor's Creek was still. Few animals made sound in the place besides the smallest amongst them. The trees near the creek were strong oaks, tall and as old as mountains. Downstream several miles away, the creek widened into a river spanning the length of a kraken hunting spear. The waters were muddy but calm. Waters that bleak were clogged, Eric Laugersson stated. Once again, the venturers walked downstream until they found about a mile away a bristly dam. Beavers, they all knew. In their minds, the venturers marked the spot and returned to Geldinglass. During the night, a drunkard stamped out of the settlement. His torn-up cadaver was found about 20 yards from the gates. The villagers mourned from afar, and a band of armed persons were ready to retrieve what was left of their comrade. Before he could be retrieved, it was the duty of the venturers to investigate. Reichel asked the guards on post what they had seen or heard, while Fane fed the hounds. Leif watched the corpse, and the others readied weapons and gear. Nobody sensed a thing. Geldinglass's walls were 15 feet high, and wooden stakes bristled like a banded hedgehog. The villagers' footprints made it impossible to follow the drunkard's trail. Dogs were set to the task, and the thornish bloodhound among them brushed its nose against the wall. When it was brought up, the hound stopped and sniffed the air before whimpering in defeat. All round Geldinglass the bloodhound went and found nothing. It was, in the words of Geisric, as if the man stopped existing. The undertaker and the party investigated the body. Hardly a shred of flesh was left. Blood was splattered everywhere and chunks strewn about. Villagers could only tell who was gone when a head count was done. There was no tracks or signs of sorcery about. There were no undead the party was aware of that would do such a thing. Fear filled the hearts of the venturers when they found the fingers cleanly bitten off, then left in the same arrangement they would have been on the hand. The fingers stiffened up in a relaxed position, like he did not know he was being killed. Cautiously, the body was gathered and given proper burial honors. During the day, the venturers searched more for whatever was afoot. Nothing made sense. Infuriatingly, there was no sign to follow. Deicrea took first watch in a tower. She kept still, her serrated axe in hand, and kept silent. She kept no fire nor entertainment. Sitting like a corpse was a skill she had gained by hiding from centipede elk during her younger years. Something caught her eyes, and in a quick flash she saw something, big and brown, leaping silently from rooftop to rooftop. Despite its bulk, the creature gracefully moved across thatch and wood like it was as soft as downing. The Forsaken of Lopt watched the creature for an hour or so, bounding about the city. She felt the tower shake as it landed on the roof. The ricket of old wooden structure was more terrifying than the thing. It stayed on the roof for an eternity, then returned to bounding off the roofs. Deicrea didn't even notice it leapt back into the woods until she heard leaves rustling. Subdued footsteps climbed the tower stairs, and she lifted her axe, ready to strike the thing coming towards her. "Hail, hail," Fane said as he entered the watchroom with the torch. Deicrea put a finger to her mouth and scooted close. "It jumps as quiet as a cat." The venturers slowly swapped places. Fane breathed quickly and quietly, and swiveled his head side to side, looking for the furry ball atop the roofs. He saw the beast atop the walls, the faintest glimmer of a thing in the light of the village. As it walked, long, slender limbs gracefully dragged the puffy body. Fane could only describe its movements as how a mountain or tree climber would move. It seemed to have no head, only a large furry upper body and a hump where a head, neck, and back might be. It walked along the walls, searching for something. On occasion, it went back into the trees, then came back to Geldinglass. The night was dead, and yet there was no tension as the creature stalked the walls with terrifying stealth. When it drew close, the venturer contemplated raising an alarm, but he knew not to do so with an unknown thing. The hamlet of Omshachet had raised its alarms when an unknown beast stalked it. 48 people died before a war band stuck the creature with spears and pinned it to a wall to find it was a long-clawed raker beast, Fane's father amongst the dead. Whenever the beast stalked the town, its eerie motions raised the hackle on Fane's neck. His eyes followed it, and then he heard a large door slam and Reichel cry out, "Come, you spawn of night fiends!" The creature stretched, then pounced. As it ran, it folded back into a ball, then extended its limbs. The creature stumbled as it navigated the town's alleys towards the venturers, standing steadfast with a sword. Fane ran down the tower and chased after the creature. It moved as swift as a spirit and wreaked nothing on death. Fane shouted, trying to draw the beast's attention. It continued running towards Reichel, who slung her shield forward and banged against the metal rim with the flat of her sword. When the thing leaped, it spread its arms wide and hissed, but flailed in the air and landed short of Reichel. She slashed at the thing, which yowled in pain, before scrambling up a wall and bounding silently into the night again. "What were you doing?" Fane asked angrily. Reichel exclaimed and examined the blood on her sword quizzically. "It was like slicing through uncooked dough. Whatever it is, the thing, being walking dead or running living, is not an immortal." Reichel greeted her companions. "I have struck the thing and made it bleed." The Olaf's Wayward Sons venturing party shouted in triumph and readied their dogs. Gelding Glacians awoke with torches, and their hounds too joined the parade through the streets. Fires were lit as word was spread loudly how silent the beast was. Though there was fear the beast may return, its movements intrigued Eric. What beast walked the way it did, and jumped silently was unknown to him. But its stumbles, and the failed leap, intrigued Laugharson the most. When the sun rose the next day, and a celebration was in the streets, the venturers inspected the blood. Its spatter was long and moved from roof to roof. Drips, not streaks. The beast moved so fast, its wound could not pour, but flew. A thick pool on the wall where it bled prior to jumping into the trees suggested it did not heal unnaturally fast. The stench of death was not present. It was a beast. Some misgivings were said at the wrongful hypothesis in secrecy. No matter what the venturers knew, that whatever they fought could be killed with iron and nothing more. The venturers followed the blood trail to Hathor's Creek with eager hounds. A dizzying array of muddy prints squelched variably in the mud. It was clear the quarry ran hard and moved awkwardly. The depth of the prints was off-kilter as well, all different. In the woods, the trail ended once long claw marks traveled up the oak trees. Reichel must have struck it hard. Hours were spent on checking equipment for the trek into the wilds, then rechecking it or packing food properly so beasts do not follow the scent. Dogs were outfitted with spiked collars and padded cloth shirts. Each steed was similarly outfitted with spiked straps and neck wrappings. Leaf reminded all present of the sworn oath over the prayers for safety and victory. Rites were performed, and all who gave small ward offerings did so. Now was the time. Victory or Valhalla. Along the trail of the beast, the venturers followed until Hathor's Creek was in sight. Followers went about igniting fires and setting up camp. If anything approached them, the splash of water would be the first alert. Spikes were erected towards the open woods, while earthen mounds were piled up to block in camp. If the beast tried to leap, it would be impaled, and if it tried to climb, it would slide down the slick gray earth. That night, every person said their prayers until they stumbled over the words and made the suggestion of syllables while completing the prayer in their heads. They wore their armor, however uncomfortable it may be, and brandished their weapons. The fire cackled loudly in the night. During each watch, the warriors looked to the canopy for any movement and listened well to the sound of the forest. Morning started when the sun crested the horizon and loomed above for predators' delight in the dawning blinding rays. So the hunt began in earnest. Separated by a few years, each member of the party had been following trails to the very end and continued forward. This time, their hounds roamed freely in an attempt to find the scent of blood. With every step, they kept their eyes on the trees. They traveled for miles, past the great hour of the day when Sunna burned brightest in the sky. With quick-footed want, the hounds stirred and barked, their noses pointed to the forests ahead. Off the lead, the dogs ran into the bush. Many strong jaws they had, bred to hunt beasts of great might. All assembled, spread out, and hid in the brush. Still silence let the sounds of the dogs barking echo throughout the forest. Shrill hisses and yowls cut through the deep gullet barking. A hound whimpered, its death throe silenced quickly. A deafening hiss struck the party's ears like arrows in wood-cloth padding. Trees swayed and branches brackled when the great weight of the beast slamming into the gruff wood. Boom! Eyes looked up to the canopy. The beast moved like a soft wind from branch to branch. When the beast drew near, followers and venturers both loosened their grips on bowstrings and sent arrows flying in every direction from below. The beast dodged and scrambled up a tree, hit by arrows, then yowled and jumped again. Over the party it went and towards their camp. With all the haste of a horse, the warriors ran. Swift was the creature, swifter than any creature they had ever seen before. It was like an elf in animal flesh. The thing climbed down a tree, and there dodged, then was caught by the hail of arrows. Once over Hathor's creek it fled, and with all haste away into the deepest brush where no mortal or hound could go. Its blood trail went a pair of miles before disappearing into the canopy once more. Sunna began her descent, and Mani rode his steed across the sky. The fires of camp were lit brightly to dissuade vengeful attacks during the night. The first true blow had been struck in the duel. During the night, in the furthest leagues away, pained cries echoed throughout the night. Morning once again broke, and the party searched. Whatever the quarry was, it had been wounded, but not ill-gouged. Dogs searched every way, but the trails had been lost. Again, a long line was made, and the search was slow and grueling. A pair of fortnights passed, and all the land around Hathor's Creek and Geldinglass were searched. Once more, it seemed the foe had slipped into an unseen immortal realm between the trees. During their time in the wilds, a follower had fallen ill, taking a fever after breaking a leg and dying in the night. Brave Eric Lagerson died of wound rot from a bite of a river rat. A dog too fell, its strong-willed heart resting during the night after the rigors of the hunt, and then never awaking in the land of the living again. Madness set in all when the sounds of the forest turned to heinous whispers in the stalking of quarry. Many winged beasts were slain by arrows and spears at the thought it was the foe. Supping upon all manner of flying creatures was a welcomed but stringy delight that one had to gnaw to get the meat off of. During the day, the quest for the beast wore the blistered venturers out. At night, they let the boils scald off by the raging fire while they held weapons in their hands. They had sworn an oath to see the murderous foe's carcass dragged back to Geldinglass and trophies be made. On a day the venturers could not remember, Friday or Thursday, and however long they had been out, the venturers found a cave many miles away from Hathor's Creek. Desiccated dung piles and littered trinkets and stones decorated the wide cave. Trolls, the party knew. In torchlight they saw the bodies of shredded troll skeletons. Upon closer inspection, the bones had been splintered but not broken. Many small cuts in them resembled wood a carpenter had roughly whittled. Dark umber blood splattered across the floor. As the Olaf's Wayward sons' venturing party walked with shields raised, they saw a foot, a beast's foot. As they approached, there they found the creature, its body burst, yet barely fed upon. Its flesh was cold, and it did not move when prodded. In the darkness of the troll's cave, the beast died, alone and in pain. Vengeance had been brought by the decay of wounds. Glory had been won, and the memory of the dead honored. The beast was dragged over many miles of rough terrain. Wherever the corpse passed, nature seemed to close itself and scowl. The woods knew of the venturers and of the mortals just beyond. In due time, battle between greenery and flesh would begin, and the slaughter come again. Gelding Glass welcomed the heroes with a feast to honor the dead. To the Aesir the fallen would go and spend the days until Ragnarok in the halls of the gods. Tales of life were recounted tearfully, and the drinking of mead and beer in the light of the fire soothed the pain of death in the smoky haze of the great hall. The night ended with prayers for the dead and the living alike, for all things must die. Der fe, de frender, de själfar itsamma, en orstil der aldregi, vem ser gåthan ger. Transcriptum terminus. An inquest into the potential nature of the creature fought at Hathor's Creek was put in with the archivist Bessia by one archivist Julia Dentirius of Termagola, she/her, in the year 5005 AR, which was responded to in 5012 AR. Following inquiries into the event with persons who saw the carcass and still live. Based on the description provided by the venturers and the Geldinglassians, the archivist Bestia had provided the following potential origin, written by archivist Septimo de Vaca of Iberia. To the archivist Julia Dentirius of Terra Magola, she/her. Your requisition of the Bestium's knowledge into the beast of Hathor's Creek has been answered. Records indicate that in the year 4898 AR, an account written by Antonio de Aranola, he/him, was compiled after meeting a Scanish trader from the area. There was a population of large cats that dwelled in nearby cave systems. Following the intrusion of mortals, they attacked livestock and eventually people. Fires were set in the caves to smoke them out or burn them alive. The tactic was successful, and the cats were killed. Legend held that one cub escaped and would return for vengeance. Many miles away, one of these cats must have made its way to Geldinglass and slew trolls who claimed their cave. In the accounts of this beast, the leaping from one tree to another is notable in many large cats around the planet, but not in northern Deicrea. Its short tail, something that does not aid in swift motion in the air, suggests either the beast was wounded or did not need it. The latter implies either it is incredibly skilled at balancing and leaping.
The former I lend more veracity to based on the studies by Moreta Hassazal of Erchkam, they them, and 48,006 AR, proposing tails, hip flight, or swift motion. Another oddity mentioned is the movement of the beast. Its fluidity demonstrates a near magical control over its athletic muscles. The way it moved seemed simian in nature, but no monkey lives in the Scandish lands. I say that the large hump on the beast may have in fact been a very bulky forward body, more suited to powerful sprints than to leaping from 3 to 3. And its indistinguishable head may have been that of a flat-faced creature, and the author meant to say the creature's face was not muzzled, but was flat like that of a pet cat. If indeed this beast was feline in nature, and what mutations may have afflicted it, I could not say. For a beast to be Pessia veritas and not Pessia cryptus, we must examine a specimen, alive or dead. For all who were, are, and shall be, may this aid.
Whatever the beast of Hathor's Creek was indeed a mutant, I do not know. If it was a cat or some other beast, I do not know either. Thus, this account shall not be investigated further until similar ventures are documented. And to all who were, are, and shall be that read this account, glory to you. Tales of Mortality is a world-building podcast set in the world of Asenscia, created and owned by Bard over 18 years and counting. It is a fantasy world of horror and madness, a planet racked by mutation and magic, where humanity survives only through itself and the Spirit Indomitable against horrors natural and unnatural. The Worldbuilder, writer, producer, and artist of the thumbnail is Bard. Me! Below is a transcription of lore, as well as a link to my Instagram, Bard of the Mad Realm, where I share art related to Asenscia. Thank you all for listening to Tales of Mortality. May chaos reign. Bye-bye.